Hey everybody, Riot Mort here with the patch 14.4 rundown. This is basically the last major patch here because this is the patch that the championship will be played on. And so, yeah, because after this is 14.5, which is when set 11 goes to PBE. And we kind of do the silly stuff at the end that we're going to do. But this is it. We've basically almost made it here. Now, because 14.3 is where everyone's playing their regionals and 14.4 is the championship, obviously we didn't want to just like shuffle the meta and completely rechange it and force everybody to relearn. So this patch is very, very small, mostly focused around some bug fixes and some very tiny adjustments. And in fact, it's actually our smallest patch of all time. So let's jump right into it. First up, on the system side, and this is mostly double up affected, frankly, this should have been done a long time ago, but a lot of double up players have been dealing with the fact that if somebody gets a Tome of Traits or a spatula from the gift armories, it makes things pretty unbearable. So did a pass on those systems. Spatulas and Tome of Traits no longer appear in assist armories. We removed Artifact Armory from the largest assist armory because it was such a low roll compared to everything else. We adjusted the second assist armory odds to be less inflationary, so the game's not always just insane. And then we did a balance pass on some of these armory changes here. So for example, 3 components for 13G was insane. Now it's 2 for 9. 2 training dummies for 5 was pretty silly. 1 for 4, etc., etc. So a bunch of balance changes here on the gift armories to make those a little bit better because they hadn't really been touched since the mode launched. So hopefully this helps double up as we head into set 11. Still more work to do on double up. This clearly isn't at all of it, but it does some work here. So, all right, on the item side, Dragon Claw. This was actually pointed out to me, but Dragon Claw not having the most MR compared to Adaptive Helm was really weird. Dragon Claw should be the premier magic resist item, so we made it the premier magic resist item. It gains 10 more MR, loses 1% of its max HP. Should be generally a small buff overall, especially against magic, but otherwise that was mostly just trying to make sure it stays the premier magic resist item. Radiant Adaptive Helm. This actually came from some testing we did, but there's that augment fully adapted that lets you have both effects. And for Radiant Adaptive Helm, just getting both effects really made the item less fun, right? Like most of the time, if you want your backliner to do mana regen, you want a lot of that. Or if you want your frontliner to gain health, you want a lot of that, not some awkward mix between the two. And so Radiant Adaptive Helm now doesn't grant both effects. It only grants one, but those have been buffed. So you get more armor and MR and more mana on hit if it's on the front, and you get more AP and mana regen if it's on the back. And so now if you have fully adapted, it will grant both. It makes more sense. It's more intuitive, makes the item a lot less confusing. On the trait side, 7 Country struggling a little bit, only a little for what we want it to be. 7 Country should feel like a bit of a high roll. So a very small buff to 7-piece Hecarim's AD ratio. This should make 7 Hecarim do a little bit more damage. Nothing too crazy. Rapid Fire is another trait that really nobody's playing past 2. 2 is great, gives your team 10% attack speed. Those Rapid Fires are stacking up, no problem. But 4 gets a slight buff from 8 to 9, and 6 goes from 14 to 16. Is this going to make Rapid Fire meta? No, of course not. Spellweavers, same story. Nobody plays 7 or 9 Spellweaver. Same thing. So we're buffing them. More AP and AP per cast at 7 and 9. So again, like I said, nothing dramatic here, but these traits are basically not being played right now, so they get some love. On the champion side, Lilia still a little underperforming for what we want her to be. So her mana goes up down another 10. I think this is like the 3rd patch in a row we've been doing that, so hopefully Lilia can be a pretty decent starter. Karthus, this change actually shipped early by accident. Somebody goofed a little bit, but we're just changing his headliner item from Archangel Staff to Adaptive Helm. Archangel Staff really just didn't synergize well with him, so Adaptive Helm lets him cast more, should be a bit better. Again, that's already live though, so enjoy that. Poppy, this one looks weird, but basically you're going to laugh, a little bit of spaghetti code here, but the way when we enter in our attack speed, we have to put in their attack speed and their attack speed ratio. Those numbers should always be the same, but for Poppy it wasn't. Her attack speed ratio was higher than intended, so we fixed that, but that's a nerf, so we buffed her attack speed to get it back to normal. So this really, if it's a buff at all, it's like a 1% buff. But it was really just kind of clearing that up from that bug there. This is not meant to make Poppy attack speed a thing. But like I said, tiny change there to Poppy to fix her. And then that's almost it. We're at bug fixes. Buried treasure component orbs are now blue orbs instead of gray orbs, so they look like item orbs. Caitlyn should now more reliably fire all of her shots from her ability, even if her targets die mid-cast. Thank you, Boxbox. That helped. A clip from yours helped us find that bug. Heartsteel's 3-star 5-cost cash out now works even if there aren't enough units in the pool. I feel bad for everyone that went through that. It's like, here's your 8 Lucians, and that's it. Sag. Diamond Hands, Gambler's Blade, Goldmancer Staff, and Needlessly Big Jim now correctly state they are unique. Cool. Crest of Cinders, Radiant Red buff now correctly states it wounds for 33%. Just a tooltip fix there. Poppy no longer gains more attack speed than intended from bonus attack speed. There you go. Aegis of the Legion tooltip now clarifies that it affects adjacent allies in the same row. Cool. Superfans will no longer grant their item to a headliner holding Radiant Thieves Gloves. Fix that bug. And Reforging Blacksmith's Gloves no longer leaves artifacts on the unit. Now, one more thing before we close this off. 3.5, the set revival is staying around a little longer, so it gets some changes here. Blade Master gets a nerf at 3 and 6. It's been dominating for a while. Cybernetics still struggling, gets a buff at 3 and 6. Jace gets a bit of a buff, some more armor and MR, some more spell damage. Jinx gets a buff, really struggling as a 4-cost here. More AD, more kill attack speed. And Syndra hopefully helping Star Guardians and Sorcerers with a bit of a buff. And that's it. 14.4, very small patch. Like I said, trying to get ready for the championship. And then they were almost there because 14.5, we'll see set 11 on PBE. 14.5, we do have a few surprises for you, though. So 14.5 will not be a small patch. We have the loot system adjustment that'll be coming out. So I'll be talking about that later next week. That'll be pretty cool. And we've got an exciting buff for Crab Rave. So, because Crab Rave needs buffs. But I think we got something fun in store for Crab Rave. So, should be good. All right. That's it. That's the whole rundown. So, 14.4 should be fun. Last super serious patch. And yeah. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.